podcast.
All right, what's up, Fight Bros podcast listeners? We're coming at you today with Fight Bros MMA Show number 62. I've got a great one for you today. This will be our fifth in the TOC 35 series. We're covering TOC 35. That's going to be April 13th at the Wytheville Meeting Center. I've got a great guest for you today. He's going to be competing in the 155-pound title match. We've got He-Man Kyshon Lee. Kyshon, thank you for coming on today, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, so, first question I wanted to ask you, I love that nickname, He-Man. How did you get that nickname coined?
Okay, so I got that nickname appointed to me by my mother. I lost her 2020 due to COVID. And, my whole life she always called me He-Man because I was always, the little guy that always picked up all the heavy stuff, or I was her He-Man and I always came to her rescue. So, just being the strong guy that I am and the hero that I like to be, I kind of just took on the He-Man persona.
Hey, that's special, man. I like that. Now, Kyshon, for our viewers, tell me where you're from and what gym you fight out of.
So I'm originally from Bluefield, West Virginia. I fight out of Advantage Martial Arts. It is located in Princeton, West Virginia, which are about 15 minutes away from each other. It's just a little drive up the street. I ran into this gym because one day I felt out of shape and I was like, I used to be an athlete. I used to be able to run, for miles, and I actually had a Taekwondo background whenever I was a kid just to stay fit and stay healthy. So I was like, I'm about to hit this gym up, and I ran into Derek and Jeremy and a few other guys in the gym, and they accepted me into the gym pretty much and was like, it's great to train with you. It's nice to know a guy like you, and you have a lot of skills that you could bring to the gym. Would you like to start fighting? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And ever since then, I just took off with that.
Hey, I like it. I feel like a lot of former athletes, like in high school and college, it's a great fit for MMA. What sports did you participate in?
Sports. So in high school, when I was in high school, I participated in every sport I could really get in, to be honest. I did track, I did wrestling, I did football. Football was my big thing. I really wanted to go somewhere with that. I was a fullback and middle linebacker in football. Wrestling, I ended up becoming a wrestling captain and making it far in wrestling. And track, I didn't do too much track. I just did that to kind of stay fit and to, keep my wind up. But really, I guess you could say I was a standout performer in the wrestling and football category.
That sounds like the perfect background, to go into MMA, already having that wrestling background and football. I mean, that's a
Yes,
good
sir.
combo.
Yes, sir.
This is a question I like to ask, everybody, especially, all the amateur fighters that's coming up the ranks. So, a lot of our viewers, we want them to understand, amateur fighters, people are, working and got all kinds of other stuff going on and then trying to fit that training in there. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about, what you do for work and how you find time to train and stay ready for these big fights.
Okay, so yeah, that is a hard thing to juggle sometimes as an amateur fighter. It because like you said, it's hard to juggle like my passion, and wanting to succeed in the sport, and juggling like keeping finances, paying bills and making sure I work at this place called Maxim Manufacturing, and I actually disassemble coal mine equipment, right? And Komatsu gear equipment. So like I on the mantle. I actually like work. I get up in the morning at 4:30. I have to be at work by or I get up in the morning at 5, sorry. I have to be at work by 6. So I'm taking a shower, I'm taking a quick shower. I'm hitting the road by 5:30, and then I'm at work by 6 o'clock. I work from 6 to 4 in the evening, and then I get off at 4, and I have to be at practice in Princeton, which is about 15 minutes away, by about 6 o'clock. So I have an hour window between, well, 2 hours, 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. But I have to pick my son up. So I have a 4-year-old, and picking him up, I pick him up and I take him with me to the gym. Like, he's with me while we're in there. I'm kickboxing and he's in there kicking the bag. I have to juggle being a parent as well with being, and I'm a single parent. Well, I have a girlfriend and she helps me as much as she can, but for the most part, it's me, her, and him. And we're juggling, like, me being at the gym, her working, me working, and me fighting.
Hey, I love it, man. That's determination. Being able to fit all that in and still find a way to train and work towards your goals. My next question is, what a future look like for you in MMA? What's your goals? What would you like to do with MMA?
Oh, really? I'd like to succeed. All right, so I really sat down and I asked myself after getting punched in the face a few times, how far do you want to make it in this sport? Like, at first it was to be healthy, to stay active and stay healthy, and then I started to fall in love with jujitsu and grappling and all of that ground aspect, right? I really like that. Then I started falling in love with the kickboxing aspect of trying to uh like paint a picture of what somebody's going to do before they do it. So that's what's kind of brought me into the martial art aspect of MMA, right? Is all of those things that attracted me to it. As far as where I'd like to go with it, I want to take all of that I see in the sport and I want to add to it. I want to add my own little sauce, my little spices, whatever you call it, and I want people to be able to see when they see certain things, I want them to say, oh, that's Kyshon, that's He-Man, like the same way we see certain things, we're like, oh, that's Anderson Silva. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
that's a big name fighter, and when we see certain fights, that's him. Or when we see certain fighters and they do certain things, we're like, oh, that's Conor McGregor. Like, I just want to be able to solidify my name in the sport as a dominant fighter.
Hey, very well said. Speaking of dominant, it looks like you had a pretty active 2023, and it looks like you've had 3 finishes in your last 4 fights. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, honestly, going into those, it's kind of getting the jitters out in the beginning, and it was honing in on my craft, trying to figure out um how to mix together the striking and the grappling. Uh, Once I got that together, it seemed to just like piece like together well. First, it's I took my first fight. So the first fight was for the TOC actually, and I took a L. And it was a very good. It was something that I needed to humble me a little bit and let me know that, like, you know, uh, you're good, but there is definitely levels to it, right? So I needed to progress from where I was at. And I feel like from there, it showed me where I was at. It was a starting point, and then from there, I'm like, okay, now I know where to shoot for to get better. And since then, I mean, you see it. I've had those finishes. The jujitsu has came in with the submissions. The strikings came in with the TKO. So I just feel like right now I'm just honing everything together, and I'm starting to become an all around fighter.
I like it, man. Um, you know, TOC 35 on April 13th. You're going to be fighting Daniel Wilkins for the 155-pound title.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
how's training camp and how have you been preparing, for this title fight?
So training camp's been fun. Been real fun. I've had a few busted noses. I don't get that too often. Uh, training with some of the guys that we train with in the gym, they're all, I mean, they're all sharks. They're all dogs. They'll put you through a shark tank, and then when you come out that shark tank, you feel like you've actually gotten better. You've seen things that you couldn't do before that you're making yourself do now. And then on top of that, we have a lot of guys that, they've made it to their pro level. And me as an amateur training with some of these pros, it gives me, I feel like, a little bit of an edge because, I'm already getting used to these 5 round fights before I'm actually going into these 5 round fights, or a 5 minute fight before I'm going into an actual 5 minute fight. So it's just working on my cardio. It's making me better.
Now, what would it mean to you to win that TOC title?
Oh, well, TOC's been good to me, so I'd love to be a representative of the TOC. As a champion of the TOC, that makes me a representative. So once I win that belt, I feel like, it's champion Kai of the TOC. After that, I'm going hunting. I plan to go title hunting, to be honest with you. I might go from I love TOC. They gave me my start, they're giving me my name, and I hope to win this belt so that I can go to some other promotion as a champion of the TOC, and I can get that recognition as I win a belt for another promotion.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. I think that's what Kim and Greg, the owners of TOC, that's what they want. They want to get amateur fighters their recognition and help them move up. So yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think that's very well put. Um, Now, you had a question for me before we get into some fun questions for you. You had a question for me, and I wanted to. Yeah, I told you. I said we'll wait for that because that might be kind of interesting for the viewers.
Yes, sir. I was curious on what got you into MMA and what got you into really wanting to do the podcast and the interviews with us fighters.
Hey, yeah, so that's a great question, man. So first of all, I've been an athlete like you, high school. Played some college basketball. And while I was in college, my degree was in strength and conditioning. I took some boxing classes while I was in college, and took some boxing classes. Still take some boxing classes. I haven't competed, like
Right,
you all,
right.
but I like to do it for fitness. But I've always enjoyed listening to podcasts. Me and my friends would always get together and watch the UFC pay-per-views. This started in like college. It's kind of funny. So my internship from college, you don't get paid for internships or anything. So the dude ended up giving me. I think he's like, man, you were so good. I wish I could pay you. And he gave me like $85 in gift cards for Amazon. And I was sitting there one day, and didn't really have anything to do with it. And I said, me and my buddy, I was like, dude, why don't we start an MMA podcast and start, talking about, fights and doing predictions for all the pay-per-views every week. So yeah, we started the podcast. We bought some mics, headphones, some light gear for the background with that $85 from Amazon. And then we kind of went from there. We started interviewing. I think one of our first fighters that we got on, they were from TOC. And I didn't know any of the TOC people at the time, Kim or Greg or any of them.
Right.
And I just ended up reaching out to their son, Robbie Ring, one day, and I wanted to get him on because I knew he was moving up in the ranks, and this was before he became professional. And Kim was in the background, and she, just liked how I did the interview and everything. And so she reached out to me maybe a week or so later and was like, would you be interested in covering the fighters fighting for my promotion, just to kind of promote and highlight them for their upcoming fights. And that's kind of how it's went from there. So yeah, thank you for asking that question.
Oh,
Nobody.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, they're great people. Kim and Greg and Robbie, I mean, they've shown nothing but love and, hospitality since I've gotten into the sport. So honestly, a big shout out to those guys. They're great people. Ring Combat, they're great, a great gym. And it seems to me like they helped you a little bit in your start, you know.
Yeah, I agree. This is something, I kind of started for fun, and then they kind of gave me a step up, giving me a little bigger platform, with them, highlighting the podcast with everybody. And I've really enjoyed it. That's the cool thing about podcasting is like, me and you've never met, and I've never met most of these fighters before. And, we get on here and have good conversation, and, it's just enjoyable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me for sure.
Hey, so I got a couple more questions for you before we end out. There's some fun ones.
Okay.
So you like to go out there and do it. You're the fighter, but are you a spectator of the sport? Do you watch UFC, boxing, any of those?
Oh yeah, I love UFC. I love UFC. Actually, I was going to try to go to that Robbie Ring had a fight last night, and I was trying to make it to the fight, but I didn't quite make it to the fight because my car's in the shop. So, once I get it, I should pick it up Monday. I should be good to go. But if it wasn't for that, I was gonna go check that out. But I watch UFC all the time. Every pay-per-view, I usually try to uh check out the highlight fights. My friends get the fights on the fight card or fight pass, whatever it is, and then I'll call them. I'm like, hey, what's up with the fights? What's going on? Or, if I'm not at practice, I try to check it out myself. So yeah, I'm a big fan of UFC, big fan of Bellator, big fan of all the fights. Boxing, I box. I do kickboxing as a sport. And my coach Derek Lambert, he's a great boxer. So I do a lot of boxing. But to me, I feel limited with boxing. So that's the only reason why I don't do boxing myself.
Hey, I think that's well put. Me having a little bit of boxing background, I haven't, trained any of the ground stuff or anything yet, but I do. I'm kind of the same with you. I do feel like it has its limitations.
Yeah.
Um, Now, do you have a favorite fighter that you like to keep up with?
As of right now, I keep up with, the big names like Sugar Sean O'Malley, Anderson Silva. I mean, not Anderson, sorry. Um, Israel Adesanya. I keep up with him. Those are my two favorite right now. I keep up with them the most. Uh, Honestly, but I keep saying Anderson because that was my favorite fighter. Him and Rashad Evans back in the day, that was like my favorite era of fighting. So I used to watch them all the time. Uh, but as of right now, that's just the two highlights that I like to watch is Sean O'Malley and um, probably Izzy. I watched the Aljo Sean O'Malley fight, but I watched the last Sean O'Malley fight against Cheeto Vera. So,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
big Sean fan.
Now, on April 13th, the same night as y'all's fight, there's going to be a big UFC 300 card. I just kind of wanted to get your predictions for that for the main and co-main. So you got Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira for the
Hmm.
light heavyweight title, and then you've got Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF title. What's your two predictions for those fights?
So the Gaethje fight, Gaethje's tough. Gaethje, I'm a Gaethje fan, so I'm going with Gaethje on that one. Honestly, against Max Holloway, I think he's gonna. I think it's a knockout. That's my prediction on that one. I don't know when, but I think it's gonna be a knockout. And then on the Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira fight, that one's up up in the air for me. Jamal Hill's tough, and Alex Pereira is like he's a strategic sniper in my opinion. He's done this enough kickboxing and in the UFC now that I feel like his skills have gotten good enough to solidify, retaining the championship. So I don't necessarily know if that one's going to be a knockout. I think that's going to go the distance in my opinion, and it's going to be a judge's call.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good take. I'm curious to see how Jamal Hill's going to come back after that Achilles tear
Yeah.
he had. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back because he was very dominant before that. Um, Last question. Last two questions I got here. Um, so April 13th. Maybe there's a little kid out in the crowd, somebody who's never watched you fight before. After the fight, how do you want to be remembered by somebody that's never seen you before as, He-Man Kyshon Lee? What do you want them to remember you by after that fight on April 13th?
Oh, I'm a humble guy, man. I love to live in the moment. I love to give back to my community is what I like to call it, right? So the people that come to watch me, I want them to come see me and I want them to take pictures with me and I want them to remember the night as like maybe one day you do see me on the TV and you're like, hey, I went to one of his fights. I watched him win this championship. He took a picture with me. He was a really good guy. I want them to support me then and I want them to support me, even in the future. Like I want that to be a lasting memory that they can take home with them. If they never see a Justin Gaethje or you know a Sugar Sean O'Malley, I want them to at least say that they seen a He-Man Kyshon Lee and he made it, and we was there whenever he first started and now look at him, he's big time. I love hearing people say that about some of their hometown heroes or some of the kids that they watch grow up. Mainly it happens a lot with, your football players. You watch them go through school and you're like, okay, they're going to go to college, and then they go to college, and then you're like, okay, they're going to go to the league, and then they go to the league, and then you're like, we knew they were going to go to the league. I want people to be able to look at me and eventually their take from this be like, okay, we know that he's going to make it somewhere, and when he makes it, we want to be able to say that we supported him whenever he was at his lowest, just beginning.
Hey, very well said, man. I really like that. Last question for you here before I give you shout outs. This one's a fun one. So this is a Fight Bros podcast. We talk about fights. As you can see behind me, we also talk about Bigfoot, the kind of unexplained stuff, Mothman,
Okay.
UFO, aliens. Any of those things, you may give a little, I don't know, maybe you believe it or interested in it.
Oh man, well, I believe in all of that, to be honest with you. Man, if you want me to be real with you, I believe in I'm so open-minded, it's crazy. If you tell me something and you can make it make sense to me, we might be looking things up all night. I might be sending you stuff like, bro, look what I found, and then you hit me back like, bro, this is what I found. I believe in a lot of that stuff. I like to believe in because when I was younger, I'm not an only kid, but I was kind of by myself a little bit more reserved. So I had a big imagination. I used to watch a lot of cartoons. I love anime. I'm a nerd myself, to be honest with you. I still watch Harry Potter and Star Wars, stuff like that. So anytime it comes to the supernatural or the unexplained, I'm all ears for it. So what you want to hear about? We could talk about it all day.
I like it, man. I'm a big, people that know me, my friends, I'm a big Bigfoot guy. I'm all in on
Yeah.
just to Bigfoot. So yeah, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, Bigfoot. I definitely believe in the Bigfoot. I believe in aliens. I believe in all that, bro. All that. El Chupacabra. Yeah, it's all real.
Hey, I love it. Well, I guess Mothman is a little bit further West Virginia. Because you said, well, did you say Bluefield area?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in the Bluefield area.
Okay, yeah. So Mothman's a little bit further.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah, yeah. It's a little bit further. You're not too far away from the Bluefield area, are you?
I'm Pulaski County, so yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I go fishing over there. There's like a place called Gatewood in Pulaski County.
yeah, man. Hey, Gatewood's great. I
Man,
fished
I go
it.
fishing in Gatewood. Yeah, it's a great place.
So, Kaishan, I want to give you the floor this last little bit, just to give shout outs to any teammates, your training camp, sponsors, anybody. The floor is yours.
Well, I just want to shout out first and foremost, like I did earlier, we're going to shout out Ring Combat Sports, Kim Ring, Greg, Robbie on a great fight last night, obviously, and then all the hospitality that they show. I want to shout out to Advantage Martial Arts, my gym. If it wasn't for them showing me the ways of fighting, honestly, I wouldn't have made it as far as I am now. Derek Lambert's a great coach. I suggest anybody that wants to learn how to box or strike to definitely hit him up. Jeremy, that's my fight partner, Jeremy Mitchell, the Adonis. I mess with that guy all the time, but hey, he's a dog. He gets me he gets me ready for the fights. He sharpens me like, iron sharpens iron is the way I look at it. And as long as I'm training with guys like that, I feel like I'm getting better. So just big shout out to those guys. Shout out to my opponent for, he's held down the title. So it's time for a good challenger. Hopefully this is a good fight for him, and hopefully this is something that he can go home proud of. Like, I got to do a fight with a worthy opponent as what I want to take from it. So shout out to him and his gym. But good luck to everybody in the TOC card. We have a few fighters. We got Trenton fighting, we got Alex fighting, and we have a Brody fighting. Good luck to those guys. Team Advantage is going to be there all night.
Hey, I like it, man. Very well put. Hey, listeners, you heard it here first. April 13th. You don't want to miss this. Come out and see He-Man Kyshon Lee versus Daniel Wilkins for the 155-pound TOC title. If you're still looking for tickets, tocfights.com. If you're looking to follow Kyshon on socials or anything, I'll have those posted on the podcast as well. So, follow him and keep up with him into this fight and, his MMA journey. Kyshon, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and taking time out your day, man. And
No problem. Thank you. I
on April
appreciate you.
13th.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me, man. It's no problem. It's actually more of an honor than it is it's an honor to have somebody looking into the sport that wants to know more, and get to know the fighters and bring our stories up before we actually make it somewhere. So I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to get to know me more.
Hey, yes, sir. You're welcome. Hey, I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the Fight Bros podcast. If you like what you heard today, like us on Facebook and like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks for all your support.